Just stay together and follow me. It'll be like a walk through the park.
Welcome back to Retro Wednesday. This idea I'm here. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about 1984 G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. Every single thing in the toy line. I'm going to be looking at everything from 1982 to 1994, and we're going to be looking at them by year. Some years are going to be pretty long. This is a pretty solid year. Has some of my favorite figures in it, some of the most iconic characters. It also has two of my favorite vehicles ever made, including my absolute favorite vehicle. But we're going to be looking at this, each figure, each character, the drivers of the vehicles themselves, the play sets, and all of that, kind of like I do with other toy lines. But G.I. Joe is so big. It is the most popular, it is the greatest toy line for action figure toy line ever created, will continue to be forever, probably will never be topped. And with that, it deserves all of these videos that we're doing. But we're going to get into looking at this. We're going to have a whole lot of fun coming up. Alright, so the first one we're going to start off with is Blowtorch. He is one that the color scheme is so much different than pretty much anything else that we have seen up to this point. This guy does look really cool. Let's get him in the correct lighting so you can see him well lit, but you can also make out all his detail. I do like the fact that he is simplistic, yet it's kind of cool. He has this face mask, an oxygen mask, which is kind of a pain to get on and off. Let's take the helmet off, is probably the easiest part, so we can see his face. He's got a very serious looking face on there. Cool looking guy overall, but I don't really remember him getting a second version in the toy line. I might be wrong on that one. But anyway, there's his helmet on him, and he's got his blowtorch piece there. It's supposed to connect into his backpack. Now this is green. This is kind of when they just kind of used that green look, even though you probably wouldn't have a green blowtorch like that. Maybe it looks like his gun's green too. There's his backpack, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool, and I always had fun with this guy back in the day when I was a kid. He made it into my top, let's see, I think a 63 or 70 figure, something like that, that I saved that were special to me when I was a kid, like I was 12 or something, and I put them in a special container. I've already done a video about that, but he definitely made it in there. Just the cool color scheme and all of that. This is not one from my childhood. None of these are the ones actually from my childhood. I'll be doing a restoration on those eventually, but this one is in way better condition. I like the way it looks. I like that it's cool, that he's got his backpack. He's very simplistic, but yes, he is, well, he's a fire starter. Alright, here's another one that made my 12-year-old or 13-year-old's top 60-70 list of figures, and he was saved, definitely. This is Mutt and Junkyard. Now, as you can see, he has his leash for it, and there is Junkyard with his leash. I'm going to be reusing this same one for all the Mutt and Junkyards through here, because the way I have my display set up, this one's easy to grab, and then the figures will just not have the animals with them. That's how I'm doing my display. I will talk more about that in the future. So he doesn't really come with two of these leashes, but he does come with this. Now this, I always thought this was like a nightstick kind of thing, and he just has it on this rope to just kind of dangle there. Surprised he didn't have a hook on him. And then he has this gun with a silencer. They say it's a submachine gun with a silencer, and I guess that's what's going on with that thing. I don't really think it's a machine gun though. And his hat has goggles on it, so it's different than the standard ones. He does have this face mask, but it's just, there's no hose coming out of it. He does have some cool detail on him, some pads there. Such an iconic figure, such an iconic character in the toy line. Really awesome. And then I think he is the first figure I got that had an animal with it, because I think it's still next year that we would actually get the Snake Eyes that has Timber, and then I didn't get Spirit right away. So looking at this Mutt and Junkyard, Mutt just a must-have figure in my opinion. And looking at this, by the time we're done, I think I only have like 3 figures in this whole year that weren't saved as in my top 70. So such a great figure, such a great year of toys. But I do like his green and brown with him. So really cool figure, whole lot of fun. Mutt and Junkyard. Next up we have Recondo, and I'm going to have to upgrade this figure eventually. He is very discolored and yellowed, and so it's kind of one of those things. I really want to show the better looking figures in my collection, and this is the only Recondo I have, aside from my childhood one, which is in pieces in a container. I'd have to restore those. I'm not doing it, but he is a bit discolored. I'm not happy with that, but he does come with this different color of gun and backpack, and you're going to see a lot of these pop up with the wrong colors, which I think look better on him. The tan looks better than the green on him. Also, I don't have a stand for him for some reason. Probably that's how it worked out on my display, that he just kind of leaned up against some stuff to fit in there better. But he is just kind of one of these jungle kind of trooper, and he does have a camouflage that's going on. It's kind of cool, it's kind of interesting, but I kind of find that I like his Tiger Force recolor more, and that's almost sacrilege because of the fact that I hated Tiger Force as a kid, but I did have him in Tiger Force, and I actually had a handful of Tiger Force figures as a kid, but not the originals. But finally I ended up tracking down this original, but still, cool figure. His hat is molded on, his backpack is reused actually a couple of times, and his gun is kind of in a green color, but there's Recondo, a lot of fun. All right, here's Ripcord he's the parachute trooper, probably the first actual parachute trooper that we got that I know of, that I can think of. And the parachute's not a real parachute. It's just like make-believe fun. Just like kind of the AVAX parachute, that's a make-believe just for fun parachute also. But this figure is still really cool. I'm not sure if I should expose his face, but there it is. See, is that orange or ginger? Is he a redhead? Is he a ginger? Let's block some light there. Got lots of bright lights on here. Anyway, this face mask is an oxygen mask, and he's got his hat. It's different than the one we got with Mutton Junkyard, and then his gun is sort of a greenish to it. It's a different shade of green than the other ones that we've seen. So a lot of green guns this year for the Joes instead of giving them like straight up black, which I guess that's cool, but I think a black would have been more adequate in my opinion, or maybe a gray or silver. But this actually plugs into a hole in his parachute right here, and this parachute's weird. It kind of clips in the back and then just folds over, and it can just flap around in the back. I don't know how realistic that would be. Also, he is another camouflage one. Kind of has the look of Stalker with the type of camouflage that he has, but fun figure overall. And oddly enough, I think I had this gun in his hand and it was the wrong color. And then eventually I just stumbled across a green one and I said, cool, I could swap it out. And yeah, so for most of these first early years, I've already had them before I set out on this mission. So just needed a few pieces, and that one fell in my lap. This is Ripcord. All right, so this is Roadblock, and he makes it into my top favorites. I'm refilming this segment because I thought I had everything, all my best parts on him, and I was wrong. So I did kind of go through my Roadblock collection here. He is my favorite, and I know just having 3 Roadblocks isn't a whole lot because I don't have all the right helmets and all that kind of stuff. But I put all my best parts on this guy here. So with that, I realized that in the process, I didn't give him this piece here. I don't know why they do this with some of the backpacks. They just have these clip-in parts, and then here's his tripod which clips into here. But I had a broken gun on him, so let's get a good gun on him, and this gun is going to go into this tripod, and that tip evidently breaks very easily, so one of mine is broken. I only have 3 guns, and one's broken, and the broken one ended up on him somehow in all of this stuff. So this is Roadblock, and the thing I liked most about him, first off, in the show, he was always in the show. He was fun, he talked and rhymed, he was just such a big character in the show, and with that made him a lot of fun. But he's also big and tough, and he took care of business. But this is such a cool figure. This one and the Gung Ho got played with the most in my house, and between my brother and I, and got lost in a sandbox, which lost to time, and then we had to get another one at a garage sale down the road because by that time they weren't in the stores anymore. But anyway, this figure is really cool. It's really awesome. Makes definitely my top 2, if not top 5. And with that is Roadblock. And let's put his tripod back on there. And probably going to have to go through all these parts again before I'm done here and make sure 100% that he has all of his pieces, parts and pieces, and all the best ones on this guy. But so much fun that's had with Roadblock. And Gung Ho. Alright, we have Spirit the Tracker, and I have to say that this is another one that I really like. Oddly enough, I'm just going to put it out there, he's the main nemesis in the show that's against my absolute favorite figure in the G.I. Joe toy line. And with that, I had this figure as a kid, had so much fun with it, and I'm sure, well, for a fact I know that so much is broken on my vintage figure, and the feet are broken off of my vintage figure also. But this is still a really awesome, amazing figure. So looking at this, he comes with this removable, I forgot what they call his belt, his sash there that's going on. His loincloth is, I guess, what we're going to call that. He's got this green gun. Now it looks like it's a dart gun with a bunch of darts that are in it. And then he's got more darts in the backpack. These are sort of a greenish color. Now again, different green than, say, what we got with Roadblock. Different green than what we got with a Blowtorch, more close to the same kind of green we got with Kondo in his accessories. And then he's got some sculpted in stuff like this knife, and there's other sculpted in stuff in this figure that you end up getting to have in classified as removable. Now I want to say there's a variant on this, and I don't collect variants, but you know, when there's important characters like this and it's an important variant, well, I was actually chasing down the better blue, and my lighting is just a little strange. Want to get it lit where it's not super bright, but it's bright enough you can see the difference in the color variation here, because this one is slightly better. This one here is maybe not this is the best, next best, but this is what they usually end up looking like, this all washed out and faded blue. And it's funny because the GI Joe's blues fade so bad. It's so hard to get an unfaded blue anything, so I was so happy to track it down and get both the variant, and the variant is this wrist, the wrist watch or something that is colored in. Still very, very cool, awesome, amazing figure. And one last variant, we have the Marauder Spirit, and I wasn't chasing down Slaughter's Marauders, but got a whole bunch of them in a lot with the Tiger Force stuff. Spirit was the only one I didn't have, and then I realized if I'm starting from scratch, I might as well get the best that I could. So I've got one with unbroken hands and the bird. But I want to point this out real fast, that the bird is, the Freedom Bird is a different color. Like, it looks different, slightly different color, brighter whites, and it's consistent across the board with all originals versus this one. But I guess some people could have put this bird on an original just for fun. Anyway, Spirit the Tracker, one of my favorite top figures. Next up, we're going to get into the Baroness. Now, very simplistic figure overall, and she has a really nice symbol, this Cobra symbol on her chest. She is wearing glasses and has separately molded hair, and she has this tiny black Cobra backpack, which looks pretty good. And then her gun is just this giant, what appears to be a giant laser rifle, and it's huge. I mean, it's one of those things that you wouldn't think that would be for her. And then of course they did reissue this in the weapons accessory pack, and she has what seems to be maybe scales on her legs, her thighs, and her boots. She does have those huge boots, as if she's going to be Pretty Woman it up. But cool figure. You could tell it's a female. She's not as thin as you would say like the character model in the cartoon, but they had to bring her to reality into the 3.75 inch O-ring scale, and it's already hard enough changing her O-ring as small as she is, so I don't think they should have gotten any smaller with her. Baroness, though, we had to wait until 84 to get Destro's love interest, and I bet that really bothered a lot of kids. I do want to commend Hasbro for putting as many female characters in this toy line as they did, even though in 84 this is the only female, I believe, that they put into the line. Still, it's a female pretty much every single year so far. Baroness. Next up, we have a fan favorite, is Firefly the Saboteur. Now, he doesn't make it quite into my top 10, but he was, in my play pattern, he was a ninja. And of course, I didn't get him brand new. I got him loose, and I just put whatever accessory that I had laying around, like a sword, in his hand, and he was just one of Storm Shadow's ninjas. And so he doesn't get his whole lore the way maybe everyone else looked at him, the Saboteur, like he's going to be bombing stuff. But he comes with this backpack. Now, this backpack is interesting. It's got all kinds of stuff in it, but it's got a removable panel, which this panel's a pain. Okay, now I'm going to have to get a new panel, but you can see that it has some stuff in there. Looks like tools and stuff you would use to maybe pick locks or do something with detonating some bombs. Next up, he has this Uzi, which they say it's an Uzi, and so I'll just run with it, and it's kind of a cool looking figure overall. It does have a clip in there. A lot of people probably use the clip as a handle, and that's not the right thing. Then he comes with, and let's just say it, he comes with a cell phone. And there's probably more to it, but let's just get right into it. You used to call me on my cell phone late at night when I need your love. You used to call me on your cell phone. Well, I always thought it was a cell phone, but we'll just roll with it. But it's green, and they've made a lot of recolor variants in these collector packs. But Firefly. All right, next we have Storm Shadow. Will the real ninjas please stand up? Stand up all the way. And he is going to be washed out by my light just a bit. So I'm going to try to reduce the light back behind here, but I still want enough that we can still see him. So that's the downside of having him pretty bright white. He is a little yellowed. He's not perfect. He looks pretty good though. I did pick my very, very best one to have on display, and the rest are in the Terrordrome where Storm Shadow and his ninjas lie. Now, this backpack's kind of cool. It houses pretty much everything. And I'm not actually going to display how it works, but you can clip the bow on the back here. And then there's a tab here, and there's a hole in the bow. And I have to say, I just recently got real accessories from a friend of mine. Hooked me up. But there's a hole in the bow somewhere in the handle. And then it clips to the back. So that's nice. And I really didn't want to mess up any of the accessories. Unbroken string, all this good stuff. But really awesome. Also, he comes with what have appear to be never bent. I'm kind of scared to even bring it out, but he's got nunchucks. There's one. I shoved it in here. Maybe I can open this back up. Yeah, there it goes. I'm just afraid of breaking stuff that's this old, and it's never been folded. It looks like brand new, so that's pretty awesome. And then we've got two swords which slide in with the sheath. We've got the long sword and the short sword. And what my buddy told me was that the vintage ones are going to be shinier, or I think he said the vintage ones are shinier than the remakes, but I don't know. I'll take his word for them that they were they're original. And then there's the short sword, which I always thought was a dagger, not a sword, but it's, as a kid, I have to admit, as a kid, I don't have any of these from my childhood. All these parts got lost like right away. And then I traded a friend of mine for one later on when we were older. I was like 12, and I still lost every accessory to this guy. I mean, you play with him that much. I mean, it's just non-stop every day. Storm Shadow was in the mix. You had Transformers out, you had Storm Shadow out. But also, all these Ninja Stars and all this kind of stuff that's going on inside of here, that is so fun that nowadays that you can get that stuff that removed out of there. That was something I always wanted, and now we finally get it in like the classified line. We did some of that stuff in the 25th anniversary, I believe. But Storm Shadow, my absolute favorite figure in G.I. Joe, hands down, and still to this day, my favorite figure in G.I. Joe. Alright, so getting into scrap iron here. If you saw my video when I was just rebuilding Joe's, this is one I got from the guy at Memory Market in Oklahoma City, and this is a figure that, see, I never had this as a kid, and I had no connection to it, didn't know anything about it. Everything I know about it is what I learned from him and getting his collection, and he has this this remote, and it's going to shoot these things. What do you call it? Like a it's not a remote detonator, which you get with Firefly. You get more of a remote launcher. He's got the button on the red finger on the red button there, and still I always thought he was one of the bland figures, but I'm glad his helmet was sculpted in, so you don't have to track down his helmet. But he's a pretty common figure. Like, he's all over the place. Very common. There is his gun, and it's a interesting gun. I think that it's the only. I don't think anyone else shares this gun, except you might be able to get it in an accessory pack or something. So that was kind of the hardest part to get out of this, was the gun. Good thing it was already there. And then he has the rubber and this launcher, so there's not much more to him. I always thought he was bland though, and would have been one of those things that I never would have picked up, except for maybe to make a video or something. But yeah, I guess I'm glad I have him, but I still think he's really low on my 1984 list. He's not at the top of the list. Scrap iron. Hooded Cobra Commander. What a controversial figure in the G.I. Joe territory. Not only does Hasbro not want to make him for whatever reason. Super 7's not allowed to make him. Nobody's allowed to make this guy, although I have a multitude of them, and he was made for 4 or 5 years as a Melloway, one of the easiest to get. You weren't allowed to have the Cobra Commander with the faceplate if you missed out on it the first couple of years. You just had to wait and not get one and just get one with the hooded Cobra Commander. So this was my Cobra Commander for all those years. This is one of the problems that people have with the G.I. Joe Classified line not having a hooded Cobra Commander, because if this was the only Cobra Commander you had in your collection from 1984 until 1994, then, well, there were a lot of other Cobra Commanders, but this is the one that was in the show so long, and it would be your Cobra Commander, but yet you're not allowed to have it. So you can go get the original one, or, you know, get 3D printed stuff and all that. Really cool looking figure, darker look to him, but the show still represented him, even with his hood on, in a lighter color tone than this. But it's still Cobra Commander. It's still the same body. It's still the same. It's just got a different head and a darker color scheme. But such a cool figure, and you can still place the gun on his back. That all works. I do like the gold that goes to it, and the darker blue does kind of look kind of interesting too also. But hooded Cobra Commander, such a controversy, and with that, I've got my vintage, so I guess I shouldn't really care. All right, now we're going to get into drivers and their vehicles. So here's the new recipe. Is going to be all the carded figures that didn't come in vehicles. Then we're going to look at the figures that were in vehicles and their vehicle. And then vehicles with no figures will be last, and play sets and all that kind of stuff. So we got Clutch in his... This is Clutch in his tan version 1. No, it's a full-on version 2.0 because he's a recolor. And there he is, and not much to say about him. He is a swivel arm. He does have a tan hat, helmet, and kind of cool. Now, of course, I got this one, I think, from the Memory Market buy, and then this is from my buddy Philip's collection. So I have one in the vehicle, and then I have one loose to display, and that's literally all I got. That, and then my childhood one, which is in pieces. And I don't know if I even kept that one or not. I'd have to look. The doors open like this. Now, each one of these Vamps and Stingers have slightly different doors. So they're all just a little bit different the way they went about it. I think the original Vamp had no doors. The Stinger has a different type of housing, and we'll see that here in a little bit. And then Vamp 2 is like this. So it's got this missile launcher on the back, and mine is not in the best of shape because I did get it from my buddy Philip, and he played the heck out of it. So that's just the way it is. I think he liked this one better than the first one because it is a little cooler. So it's pretty much the same thing remolded. Now in the back, instead of getting this cage to hold your stuff, got a sticker on there. I don't know what that sticker goes to. You get these gas cans that just plug in. So that's a difference. Now I don't know where the other gas can is. Well, okay, it's just missing. I don't know if I never tracked it down. I have kind of cold stopped on vehicles, and if I find a part for something like this, now that I know I'm missing it, I'll be probably looking for it. But this looks cool. Let's get it compared to the Stinger real quick. See, Hasbro was really good at putting out the same mold with different colors, slightly different stuff going on with it. I think my Stinger's in way better condition. Well, I did have to track down this top piece here. So this top piece is solid. There's a hole in this one. And then on these, this opens out like this, and then this opens up. And then on the back, you have a launcher. So it's a different type of launcher. You're launching these missiles. And I think I had the wrong missiles on it at first. I had the ones that had the gray second piece on the back, and that actually goes for one of those mini rig kind of things. And then from the back, you have a place for some troopers to stand to, I guess, get burned up by the missiles when they launch. So that's the Stinger. Same vehicle, but slightly different variations on each one, which can make collecting a little frustrating. All right, next up we have Cutter version 1, and another one that's hard to get with a good blue shirt. This is like my 4th one I had to pick up to finally get one that I was happy enough with. But I mean, I got them for anywhere between $7 and $12, but this one was like 12 plus shipping, and it worked out in the end. And just online pictures, they look this blue, and they come in looking like this. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not like sellers are doing anything wrong. It's just the way it is. Trying to get that blue looking good is really hard. Anyway, he's got his life preserver. It's like you're asking for a joke from a 1985 movie from Back to the Future with his life preserver. Anyway, he's got a hat that's permanently molted on, and he's got some stuff going on with him, like his gun in there and all that kind of stuff. But he is the driver to my absolute favorite vehicle. I do think he's a little dull. Like, he's a little not so great, but the vehicle's amazing. And I've already done a review on the Whale hovercraft. It is phenomenal, my favorite, but it is super ultra, beyond ultra fragile. Pieces break on this all the time. Trying to keep these things aligned is tough, and finding you lose the tips. Just parts break. These rear vanes break real easy. These are actually pretty abundant and easy to get, these depth charges. You have panels that open up on it and all this kind of stuff. You have so much going on. Watch my review on this. I'm not going to go over it anymore. I don't want to waste too much time, but it's fantastic. I do have tracked down some spare parts for it in case anything else breaks, but I hope nothing breaks. Anyway, this is the Killer Whale hovercraft and cutter, and my favorite vehicle by far. Definitely will have to back a HasLab on this if they do it, but that would be a little scary. All right, next up we've got Thunder, and this is the Slugger. Now, I'm going to sound a little like I don't know what I'm talking about or I'm doing. I'm literally following Yo-Joe on this. I never had this figure as a kid. I don't know a whole lot about the figure, and I know that they just recolored Thunder and made him Sky Striker for the Tiger Force, which is even more confusing on how they did this thing. But this figure comes with this vehicle, and he has this interesting helmet. I hope I have this set up exactly right. I mean, looking at Yo-Joe, this is how it looks. And then I looked at some eBay listings, and it sort of matched. And this is all these parts were mixed into my buddy Philip's collection, so I kind of assume everything's right here. But with that, I don't have enough to do 2 complete Thunders, and somehow I have another Thunder, and he's for this. So I've got accessory pack stuff on him to just kind of flesh him out to make him look more complete so he can be in the vehicle. And let's go ahead and look at the vehicle then. And it is a giant single, it's just like a giant tank. It's interesting how this is probably a much lower price point than any of the other tanks, but it does include some really interesting stuff here. He does have this gun, which does not want to stay in. I don't know if I've done something wrong there. You have this hatch, which I found at the bottom of my Joe tub, but I knew it was there, and I knew what it went to all along. But it's something that I think that we were missing with our first tank. And then opening panels, like you always see panels, removable panels to work on the engines and stuff, so that's realistic. They were trying to make this realistic, probably more realistic than most people would have really needed. And then here this comes out. So my whole thought process behind this, and I don't know, but I'm assuming, is that this is going to dig into the ground, and when this thing shoots, it's going to hold it in place so it doesn't like fire back too far. It kind of holds it in place when it fires. And I have seen a lot of military drills and stuff, and I haven't seen this exact vehicle before, but I have seen kind of how things kick back really hard on these when they're launching missiles and stuff. But this is the Slugger, this is Thunder, and feels like a very real-world military vehicle, but it is a bit stylized. All right, next we're talking about Deep Six version 1, and I say version 1 because I know there's multiple versions of them out there, and they get kind of wild and crazy, but some of them are kind of cool, to tell you the truth. This is Philip's childhood one, not the greatest shape, condition on the figure. There is a spot, I think right here is where you would put the hose and pump so that he'll float back up. He doesn't have the hose and pump, so not too worried about it. Now I did open this up and I see there's some parts in here. Not exactly sure if all this goes with this. But I will say that I know these flaps go on the back and I can't get them to stay on. They fall off really easy. It's one of those things, either the flap's broken or what holds it on is broken. Either way, it's not worth risking losing these pieces, so I just kind of leave them in there. And since I display him, I just kind of leave that in there. Anyway, getting into the Shark here, it does have these opening panels where some guns come out, and It is a cool looking vehicle. You do have that canopy that opens up. It can fly in the air, or it can go all the way down and see the Titanic without imploding on itself. So that's kind of cool vehicle. There's 2 missiles that fall right here, and evidently we have, this is the mechanism for opening and closing that. Not as smooth operating mechanism as I would have thought. Still, it's the Shark. It's very iconic, but the good thing about the Shark and this version of Deep Six, it's very, very affordable and easy to pick up. I'm surprised I haven't upgraded mine. Shark. All right, so this is going to be a quick, easy one. We've already looked at the Stinger. This is the Stinger driver, which is a gray version of the Cobra Trooper, and the Cobra Trooper is pretty cool and iconic. The gray version, now this one's not in the greatest condition. I think my childhood one's in better shape, but it is in pieces, so I will need to put the new O-ring in that. But as for everything else, the color is still good because it's been in a tackle box since like 1990 or something like that. So it's in really good shape, and it's been held up pretty good. This one still looks pretty decent overall. It's nice to have a display shelf, and it does have a nice decal on there. Little tidbit about this: there is not another Stinger driver that was made until the modern era. So there's not another one in the run to 1994. In fact, it's not until the 2000s that they made another one with a new body mold. I think it was the 25th anniversary. But I was a little surprised, but maybe I shouldn't be. Also, the Viper glider pilot is also a recolor of the Cobra Trooper. All right, next up we have Copperhead and the Water Moccasin. I think back in the day, I didn't know how to focus, and now I do. Focus, Mike. This was, I got this as a mail-in maybe? This was one of the ones that I did not get at the store, but I had it, and I think it was a mail-in. And it was one of those, so it has that special feel to me that it was a mail-in and I had to wait for it, I believe. And with that, this is such a cool, Copperhead's a cool looking figure. He doesn't come with any accessories until he's rebranded with a Python Patrol, and then he comes with Leatherneck's gun and some backpack. Anyway, this is a nice, cool color scheme. It's teal. It definitely breaks up your color scheme on your shelf for the figures. And he looks like he's got some aquatic stuff with his pants, but then he's just wearing a tank top. Obviously, he's hanging out in swamps where it's hot. And here's the weird thing. I always thought that he was one of Zartan's guys. Always thought that he was a Dreadnought. Just kind of the way he acted, the way he talked and all of that. But maybe he should be a Dreadnought. I mean, the colors and all that, he does kind of fit in wearing a tank top, just kind of cold chilling. Yeah, I think that would be. Let's look at this Cobra Water Moccasin. It's really cool. Feels like the same thing that we got with the top of the hovercraft, the same kind of thought process and idea. They did make this piece here removable so you could put a figure in and out. For the longest time, I had one of these on one of my ISP-6s, which is a small Imperial shuttle. And it just filled the gap, and I was like, that goes to something G.I. Joe. And then one day I pulled this out and I was like, man, that's where it goes. This piece here likes to pop in, but it has kind of the same rudders in a way. These are all one piece, where we had kind of a flappy piece going on, and we had some horizontal rudders, horizontal vanes also on the hovercraft. So this one doesn't have that, thank goodness. We don't have to mess with that. But sometimes you see all this kind of stuff broken in the back, and it does have this, all these parts being almost the same color. It's hard to see. And then yeah, this Water Moccasin, it's a pretty cool low budget vehicle. Some guns right up here, and then one more thing is there's this sled on the back, and there is this sled. I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do with it. I don't see handles or anything, but Water Moccasin, Copperhead, awesome toy. All right, so we have the Wild Weasel and the Cobra Rattler. This is one of my favorite vehicles also. I was so infatuated with this thing. I think I got mine at a garage sale, and it was missing some parts and pieces, but it was close to complete, and I was really pleased with that. And then the Wild Weasel figure, I never thought he was all that cool of a figure, but I never knew. These are like maps or something on that he's got on his knees, on his legs there. That's kind of interesting. He's all in red with some black straps and pads and stuff on him. And then his helmet is not removable. Thank goodness he doesn't have a stupid, ridiculous microphone to track down. And so that makes the figure relatively affordable, so that you could have one in the gunner station and one piloting this thing if you wanted to. This does open up. This is supposed to stay where it goes. This opens up, and then this back one here opens up on there, and you can see the Wild Weasels. Now, Wild Weasel is one character. He's not like the Cobra Viper where you'd have 12 Cobra Vipers, but I do want to say Wild Weasel might have some co-mates that are wearing similar attire to him. So this is Wild Weasel, and that's Bill, and that's Frank. So that kind of worked too. Also, looking at this vehicle is so awesome. I don't believe I've actually reviewed this yet. I'd have to look it up on the channel because I've reviewed so much and I've brought it out for so many things. I can't remember if this officially got reviewed, but this is the scary part in this is folding the wings for the vertical takeoff, and then now it's in the air, so it's in flight mode. And with that, this stuff pops off relatively easy on mine, on both of mine. So I do have 2 of these. I actually got one for $30 from Toy Base 10, Steve. He hooked me up for $30. It was missing some stuff, but easy enough to track them down. These engines aren't solid engines, though. They are slide-in pieces, which I have got more, so I will be upgrading it. Some of it's discolored, so I can upgrade with some of these other parts. It comes with a ton of missiles, and I don't even know if I can get them all on there. So let's just look at one side. And yeah, you've got this triple missile rack. You have these smaller missiles right here, giant missiles, 2-part missiles. You got a machine gun that you turn this and the machine gun turns, and if my understanding is if this breaks and you want to swap it with another one, there's no way to do it because it's all kind of sealed in on itself because of the way the mechanism is. So it makes this for a challenging vehicle to get. And I did get a reissue. I ended up selling it off for stupid money, the reissue, because somebody wanted the reissue over the vintage, and I said, okay, sure, take it, I'll let you have that. And I wished I would have kept it, though, because it is one of my favorite vehicles. Now, I did only buy one of the HasLabs and back one of the HasLabs. I kind of feel like it'll be easy to get just a Rattler down the road if you wanted one, but getting the whole HasLab might cost a little bit. But anyway, this is the Cobra Rattler and Wild Weasel top-notch vintage G.I. Joe. This is top-notch vintage Cobra. Okay, this one's not a MLOA. This is the Zartan with his Swamp Chameleon. And I guess it's just called the Chameleon. Now, this is one of those that, another one that I didn't have right away as a kid. I got it at a garage sale, and I never had the Chameleon as a kid. So as an adult, like trying to put this thing together and keep it together is just kind of mind-boggling and perplexing to me. But anyhow, let's look at the Cobra Commander. He does come, not Cobra Commander, the Zartan, and he comes with his signature gun, which it actually is really hard to get his gun for some reason. And it's also hard to get any of his parts in general, but I dropped his gun. Let's put it back in his hand. So looking at him, he has clear translucent on his chest piece, and this one has some coloration underneath it. Now, he does change colors. Now, I should probably do that, but I'm not going to this go around. I might do it sometime in the future. Their thigh pads I have clear, but they're painted, and then he's got some boots on. It's kind of cool. His color scheme is awesome. He just looks really cool. You can remove this. I'm not going to because then it probably won't want to stay back on. But one thing you can do is open his backpack and pull his disguise face out. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that just because he changes his face, people aren't going to go, oh, that's Bob, not Zartan. Well, it's kind of a interesting looking face with the beard and the mustache, but nobody really was going to fall for that as a disguise. But it was just kind of a fun gimmick, and the way his hair was, or his cowl, it really isn't hair. It's a piece of cloth that goes on there. Don't lose that face. Then we have his chameleon over here. Come on, chameleon. And this thing is really strange. Now you have, for whatever reason, in this axis moving on the rear, I don't get the point of that. Why not make it a more solid vehicle and not have that feature? That sucks. I think I have 2 of these, and took 2 of them to make one sort of hold together well. And that is what I got to say about that. I don't like this little vehicle, but I don't actually hate it because I got one to work okay. Funny that they recolored his gun almost the same color as Chameleon. So you got this in the accessory pack. It's almost the same color as his Chameleon. once you find the face that went across the room, you close it up in his backpack, and it holds in his backpack. That's awesome. Now, if you break down this thing, which I'm not going to, these are just spare parts for my other one, then you can put this here. This is like a tow hook, and he can drag his swamp ski around. Silly. They do this with a lot of stuff. Silly idea. I think they gave up on this after this year, but strange, silly idea. This is Zartan with his chameleon and his chameleon carrying case. Alright, so next we're going to get into vehicles that had no driver. Most of this is Cobra stuff, and we have this one here, which is the Cobra Asp, and I forgot what that stands for. Anyway, it doesn't really matter to me. I know it as the Asp, and there it is. It's something I'm not really too keen on, but I have two of them, and they kind of guard my Terrordrome. Now, I want to say this rotates up all in the same. They're connected. They go at the same time. You lift one up, the other one goes. You can put it on wheels. It's got the stand here, but if you want to fold these feet up and pull the wheels out, then you can tow it. That's a thing you can do. Or you can fold the wheels under, which for whatever reason I was having trouble with. But now it's a lot easier. Now, one of the few times that stuff's easier on the camera, you do have this opening cage here for it. And when you close this, it does kind of cover his face. But I'm not closing it all the way because I've got a pretty good Cobra Trooper in there, and I forgot to take his gun out. But yeah, this is the Asp. Very simplistic kind of a vehicle slash, I don't know, it's just really just a gun. It's not really a vehicle itself because it doesn't move on its own. It's a towable. Next up we have the Cobra Claw. This is one of those vehicles that is a low price point, but you can still get a good complete one for like 35 bucks on eBay today. Back in the day when I was trying to put this collection together of these, it was much harder. I did piecemeal it together, pieces at a time, and that was expensive. So getting a complete one for like 35 bucks is probably the way to go, but it is really cool. So there's a couple of things. First of all, you have these landing gear that come out. They clip into place there, and then they clip into place on the outside, and then you have the landing gear. They also have a bomb that clips into here when you don't have a figure in it, and the bomb will hold in place. This will clip on all 6 of the doors that are on the Terrordrome. I think there's 6. There might be more. There might be 8. I actually haven't counted the doors on that in a while. We'll leave that off. But I did go through a bout of trying to piece together all 6. I was wanting 6. For some reason, I got that number in my head. I haven't quite got there with 6 complete ones yet. I gave up. But here we go. We put a figure in, clip his back in. He can hold on to this if you're brave enough to try to like finagle his hand into there, and then he can fly it. You'd want to push those up and then tab that into place. The claw is just awesome. Absolutely awesome. I love the claw. In flight mode, you want to pull these out to get a little bit more wind resistance. Fantastic. Low budget vehicle. I remember another one I got at a garage sale, and man, that made my month finding this. I don't think I put it down for a month. It went with me everywhere. But that's the Cobra Claw, and it's a fun one to have several of. I don't have several of the vehicles. Actually, I've stopped on Joe vehicles, but this is one that in the past, my past, I did track down quite a few, and so much fun. I do want to show this modern claw that was scaled down, and it is a much different type of vehicle. It is one solid unit all the way across. These handlebars clip in, and these 2 missiles plug in, and the figure for the like 25th anniversary style would plug into here. I don't think a vintage one would fit, but you could make a vintage one sort of hold on to it if you wanted to. Now, it's got its advantages is that if you track one down, you just got one chunk of plastic and 3 pieces to attach. This has, I think, 20 parts to it. So much different, but I still prefer the vintage one. Next up, we have the Manta. This is a very flimsy type of vehicle, but a lot of these were. It was a mail-in. It was near free as a mail-in with some flag points, but it's something that, you know, Shipwreck could be floating around on, having some fun, staying away from the girls. But these are pretty cheap, and as you can see, you can get more than one for a good price online. I thought it was slick getting these for like right around 20 bucks each, And turns out that you can just get them all day long for about 20 bucks each, obviously with a little bit of imperfections and stuff. As time goes by, of course, you see them get cheaper and in better condition, so of course you upgrade, and maybe we'll have someone on there. So let's take a look at one of these that is more or less complete. You do have these two main sections that clip together, and then you have one section here that's kind of helps to float, and you have these connector pieces. You have one missile that connects right here. You have a gun that connects to this, or they can hold it, and it has, for whatever reason, a strap. I'm not exactly sure where this other strap piece is supposed to go. I could never figure that out with this. Probably pegs into a hole on the pole or something. The pole is a two-part pole, but you have to face it one direction. This is really the only way it can go together because of the holes in it to connect to the pole and then to connect to this piece here. Really not... I'm sure there's a way you could flip it around, but the way I find it's the best to put it together like this. And one of the things is that you can put all the extra parts, you can break it all down, put it in a backpack. This isn't every piece, it's just my extra parts, but you can put it in a backpack. I think this is a silly gimmick that they shouldn't have wasted their time with. I guess you can put the poles on the sides here, which help fit some more stuff in there. But yeah, this is the Manta MLOA. It's a really cool vehicle. It is fragile, and it's super cheap and easy to put in your collection. All right, this is the Bivouac. It's pronounced Bivouac, and it is not exactly whack. It is kind of just a place for a tent for your Joes to get rest and have, they can communicate. You can have a missile launcher. It's got a mortar going on right there on a tripod. And then you have these tools here, which is only supposed to come with one shovel, one axe, and then it also comes with a machete, which I have somewhere. I have enough to make 2 full bivouacs, and I'm missing some parts around here. But anyway, Spirit's taking a nap over there. You can have a canteen hang right here on this. Now, my buddy that I got these from was working on several bivouacs, but I think it would be kind of cool if you were to set it up like this. This would actually make for an interesting display if you had room on your shelf, and you could get all of them lined up and maybe even put some more parts with it. But just getting the shells to him, because he was trying to get 3 for whatever reason complete. Kind of cool. This is the bivouac. This is the only one complete. These other parts are just kind of fun. Next up, we have the Watchtower. This is another one that's pretty reasonably priced type of playset. It builds out the world, and it comes with similar parts, same parts that you get with other things, like a flag. And so these two come with the Joe headquarters, so maybe they break pretty easy, so I'm real careful putting it on this. This also has these sandbags that are on there, and also if you turn it around, there's this stairs you're supposed to put on there, and then this other door, which I seem to have lost both of them. I had both of these complete, and I'm missing some parts that are around here somewhere, but still a lot of fun. I think you can see how this is actually going to work really well in a display to add to your display. Next up, we've got these battlefield accessories, the machine gun defense unit, which is there. Then we have the missile defense unit, which I only have pieces to it, and then the mortar defense unit, which I have almost nothing, but I will show a picture of all these so that we can move on. And then there's also the mountain howitzer. So one of these, this goes with the mountain howitzer. Stuff that I have remnants of and bits and pieces of. Still kind of cool stuff to fill it out, but not stuff I'm chasing down. Next we have the Skyhawk, which is a really cool figure, or vehicle actually. It's low price point, low budget, and very G.I. Joe. This isn't a real world vehicle. It wouldn't work in real world, but you do have these rotating engines. Now this piece that clips the engines on, sometimes is broken off. These pieces just tab in. Sometimes they're missing. These front guns, if they're broken, good luck swapping them out with good ones. It has 2 missiles here that detach to these landing skids. The landing skids are a challenge. They are always broken. Always broken. Good luck getting some unbroken. I recently upgraded this so I can have some that are not broken. That was a pain. Getting this on's a pain. You can open up the canopy, which has no glass in it, and you can see a tab in there. You put a figure in, close this up, and then it flies away. That's really all it does. I've got this upgraded. I'm going to do more work to this one, but I just recently got it in and wanted to use it in the video. But I'll probably have some more stuff done to this and cleaned up a little bit better before we do the review of the classified 12-inch version that's getting made by Fans Hobby. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this look at the 1984 G.I. Joe toy line. What an amazing year. So many great characters, so many great vehicles, so iconic. It had that nice mix from military and a little bit in the sci-fi realm. Wasn't overly sci-fi, had its feet in reality, and still so much fun. Anyway, I'd like to hear your comments down below. Let me know if you think this is the greatest year, or what year is the greatest year. Tyderic Maker out.
I'll never work for you.
Hail, Cobra Commander.
The light! Sorry, pal. We're in a hurry, and all the dead weight has to go.
I feel another presence. That presence feels you as well.